Here we go. We definitely made up some ground this week. I think I've actually been more or less, I'd say 90% precise over the last week, which is about fine, I think, for a non-contest prep fat loss phase. So things are moving in the right direction, and usually, what it takes to put an end to I wouldn't say a bad streak, but when you're looking for momentum once again, it really comes down to just getting back on it and not thinking about the time that you might have lost. So everything is going back to where they were for the most part in regards to being more or less on point with my nutrition, um, how they started basically, and then training on top of that's just been feeling really really good despite the under eating. So yeah, this was most of this footage was from a torso day, so a back and chest day, and I guess we'll go over the footage a little bit and go over some changes. So one thing I have changed, in anticipation for me getting stronger on this movement over time, is my dumbbells and the way they are angled. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but they're not angled in a traditional manner, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that as I get stronger on this movement, once I get to the point where it's anything above 115 or so, they kind of get in the way, or at least it's distracting, and this way they're kind of out the way. It doesn't necessarily affect how much pec you recruit, so long as your humerus is angled in the right way. So I'm not completely tucked in, but I'm also not completely flared. I'd say it is a very pec dominant grip, but again, because I am holding it in that position with my hands, don't think that for a minute there it's I guess missing the targeted muscle groups. But yeah, again, I'm still enjoying my training, and that's usually a good sign. But also, again, this is just kind of a fat loss phase. It's not like it's a contest prep where you are at the end. There is days where you're like, I'd rather be doing other things other than training. It really helps again to have Leanna here helping me out when it comes to especially my bodybuilder work. We're on a similar page when it comes to that. She's looking to compete next year, and again, in order to compete, we both share some similarities in regards to body parts that we have to bring up. So, of late, we've really been working on keeping each other honest when it comes to little cues here and there to make a lot of these movements a lot more effective. So, for example, here on the hammer strength row, one thing that we're really working on is keeping a more neutral neck so that we don't, I wouldn't say fake, but I guess the better word for it is not retract our scapula as much as you think you might. And I think that's something that you will see quite often with a lot of people when it comes to just about any type of rowing movement, is that they'll kind of throw their head forward. So yeah, we're trying to actually double chin, or create a double chin as we do this rowing movement. Both of us definitely have pretty decent symmetry when it comes to, I guess, the X-frame. It just needs a lot more muscle, especially up top. So that's been helping. I think it helps to have a good training environment. And as you can see, we train in a kind of a fitness center. There's a rock climbing wall right there. The walls are like green, and there's a rug. But again, sometimes just hanging around the right group of people makes a world of a difference. So this is these two movements, the dumbbell incline and then the hammer strength high row. Those are my prime movers on these days. They are programmed. I am using percentages the way you would say for a bench press. And I know that sounds kind of funny and odd. Why would you program a machine in that manner? The first two movements for any day, for example, my compounds, if you will, I treat them the same way I would as a squat, a deadlift, or those movements where typically if you would see 4x8 with 72%, you would think 72.5%. You would think like, oh, that's appropriate. But sometimes when it comes to these bodybuilding movements, we don't see them in the same fashion, and that's kind of where I guess you'd be missing the point to having not learned what powerlifters have known for a very long time, that if you kind of lay out your plan and organize your efforts, periodization, right? You're much more likely, less likely to plateau. So in the movements where I really want to progress on, that's what I do. I treat them more so like I would a squat, bench, or deadlift. And again, that's borrowing from athletes who have been very successful when it comes to being progressive with the loads they use. And of course they have to, because that's the name of the game in powerlifting. You need to get stronger, right? So yeah, my big movements are like that. And then everything afterwards, there is progression schemes. They're just not percentage based. This movement has replaced the seal row, mostly because my boxes were missing for a few weeks. We got some new boxes and they actually look better and more sturdy, but I've already kind of built up momentum with this one, and it's just kind of a nice change of pace. I've also been stuck on a certain weight on the zero on both the dumbbells and the barbell for a while now, so it was getting just a bit frustrated. And again, regardless of whether or not you really think ahead when it comes to your training, every once in a while you're just going to go through some droughts. And I was definitely hitting one with the Sierra. So I'm going to step away for a minute, take up this machine here, which honestly is one of my favorite machines ever. It's also commonly found. So in the next few weeks when I do start traveling, it's going to be easy to run into one of these. Whereas a seal row might not be exactly practical to do in many of the gyms I might find myself in. But again, that's where we're at. Training is going really, really well. We are down to about, I'd say 173, 174 on some days, which in terms of body weight wise puts us at about close to 10 pounds. Not all fat, a lot of it's just being flat and depleted, but we're heading in the right direction for sure. And again, training's been really, really fun. And here's Liana doing some push-ups. She had better sets afterwards. So again, kind of the same thing with the scapula and the seal row. The only thing I'd really have to critique here is like a bit more of a neutral neck. So again, just because you're broing it out here and there does not mean, and broing it out, I think just there's so many negative things that are connected to that, but we just take pride in our isolation work and in those finer details, I guess you could say. There's nothing wrong with I guess splitting hairs when it comes to these movements. So again, I am heavily influenced by powerlifting, and I definitely take that into account when it comes to all movements. Doing them correctly and then programming them accordingly is going to go a long way in helping you continually progress, or in the case of a fat loss phase, progress as much as you can, or in certain phases perhaps just maintain as much as you can. We're definitely entering. I think this is the fun part of the fat loss phase, where every pound from this point on is going to look pretty cool. It's going to yield big changes in the physique. That's my report. I think next report we're going to have a physique update. And along with the physique update, I just more than anything wanted to bring up the fact to you guys that we're actually starting to just get some more momentum here and starting to actually find our groove with this fat loss phase. It was pretty hard to make that transition from an off season where I was a bit more loose to getting into a fat loss phase. That definitely usually takes me a few weeks, but I think we're finally there. So things are going well. The next next update will go over the training in a bit more detail, and then also a physique update. And I really think that this time around we are going to see some pretty good changes. I definitely think that I finally found my groove when it comes to this. So again, just a reminder to you guys out there, we all kind of fall off from time to time. I think one thing that you just get better at doing over time is, firstly, you get better at preventing it, which is key. Secondly, you get better at getting right back on it and not making the slump any longer than it has to be. So that's where we find ourselves now. We kind of made a 180, and I think we're finally back in business. I'll leave it there. And again, questions, post them below. I appreciate all the questions, all the comments, and just the support and positivity that you guys bring to this channel. I'll leave it there for now.